right, and we're back with Coach Roel and Scott Meyers. Thank you again for taking some time out. We did speak a little bit earlier today about your exciting mission trip.
Mm-hmm.
What I wanted to ask you about is really kind of exploring a little bit deeper. I'm very curious personally
Mm-hmm.
to ask you and to talk to you about your personal why,
Mm.
and because I talk about the why a lot, and that's something
Yep.
that I know is very important to me, and I talk about it in our master classes, in
Mm-hmm.
our virtual academies online. But yeah, I'd really like to ask, why do you do what you do, Scott?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, if I could go a little further back, it really comes around. People ask, first of all, why do you teach people about self-storage? Why would you share your secrets with everybody? Aren't you creating competition? When people are going to go out there and, I think there's two ways to look at life, and that's, coming from either an abundance mentality or a scarcity mentality. And we come from an abundance mentality, and also realizing that you go as the African proverb says, you can go fast and go alone, or if you want to go farther, then you go together. And that's what we've realized, and I realized in business and in life. And so by teaching people about the business, that has opened up so many partnership opportunities to us to be able to grow and scale our business. And so we also realize, with that comes a responsibility. And also, going even further back to when we started this business and the education side of the business, we had I'd been through, as many people have read our story on our website and many other places. And we came from a place of not only scarcity because we didn't have anything. But when I was in the tenant toilet business, the recession of 99, 2000 just about did us in, the dot-com crash. And shortly after that, when the Community Reinvestment Act came out and allowed anybody who could fog a mirror to get a loan, well, and roll in all their credit card debt and then some. Well, those folks went out and bought houses and rolled in all their debt. And guess what? Those are the crummy loans that went bad back in 2008. But in 99, 2000, all our tenants were leaving because they could get a home for the first time in their lives. And, who could blame them? And so we were left with a huge shortfall. And we battled that turnaround for roughly 2.5 years. And I thought I just needed to work harder and I needed to work smarter. And we struggled and we fought. And it was, every 30 days, wonder, are we going to make it? Are we going to make it? Are we going to make it? And then finally, just kind of throwing my hands up to my maker, saying, okay, if I lose it all and have to go live in the basement with my mother-in-law, then so be it. I've got my family, and I got the ability to go out and do this all over again. So your will be done. And it was at that time that I made it very clear. I give my life to him, but I had not handed my business or my wallet over. And so when we made that decision to basically give up control, I also told my wife, I said, okay, I know that we've held off on this because we didn't have the ability to do so, but it's time to start tithing. And so that meant giving 10% of our income to the church, as we should be doing, as the God I believe in asks. And so my wife was a little nervous. She said, "Oh my gosh, we're going to bounce a check to the church." And she wrote the check out that Sunday, and it went through. And it was at that time that immediately the business began turning around. And we had checks coming in from refunds from insurance companies and different areas, and the houses were selling. And the ones that were vacant that were for lease were leasing up. And we tithed our way out of debt into a place where our business became very prosperous and profitable. And then, as I mentioned in our last conversation, we got, after going on our first mission trip that was funded by a good friend of ours, family friend of ours, that he does for all of his employees. He paid for everything. He paid for the trip for his employees, and then he made this available to his kids' school, in which our kids go to school with as well, and said, "Hey, if you want to go on this mission trip with us, we'll pay for the whole thing. You just need to pay for your flight down to the Dominican Republic." And so we went on that trip for the first time. And it was there that I said, I told my wife, I said, "This is something I want to do." I said, I want to get to the place where we were able to take our employees and our family and friends, just at any time, just be able to invite people and just say, "We'll pay for your trip. Just get here and we'll be able to pay for a trip." And so I wanted to desperately be able to, we've seen what this looks like and the impact it makes for these families. It is a generational, changing the trajectory of these folks' lives and ending generational poverty, one family, one house at a time. and it's just infectious. And I realized this is something I want to do. And at some point, I want the 80/20. I want to spend 80% of my time here on the mission field with other like-minded individuals doing this, and 20% back earning money to be able to do so. And so that was at a time where, again, as real estate goes in cycles, our business was not at the place to be able to do that by any stretch. To pay for a house and pay for 20 people to go and build it and pay for their hotel and their food and accommodations and everything else. But realizing the lessons of what we learned in the past, I told my wife, I said, let's devise a plan and let's begin to tithe on our corporate profits and see what happens. And so we did, not our gross, but on our net profits. And once we set that in place, it said we're going to set aside 10% of our profits in both our businesses, our investing business and in our education business, so that when we have enough money, we'll take a group to build a house. And it was at that time, shortly after that, that we had made that, set that goal and set aside the account, that the business began to take off. Go
Excellent.
figure. And it worked a second time. So as the business took off, we were able to grow that fund and be able to, we started building one house a year, and then we were doing two, and now we're doing 2 trips a year, building 2 houses each time. And following that pattern that my friend Dave had put in place, and to take these people on this mission trip and be a family-friendly trip that they can take their kids on, as young as 6 years old, and to hopefully spark something in them, whatever that is. It would be great if many of these folks, and we take some pretty high net worth individuals that we are associated with on these trips, and many of them have said, I'm going to do the exact same thing. And now they're building houses with groups, and it's continuing to snowball. And that's not the experience for everyone. But we hope somebody comes back changed in some way, and that they're able to pay it forward, even if it's just serving in their own family where they never really came with a servant's heart, or in their church or in their community, or even on a grander scale, and helping people, in other countries.
Hmm. Wow, there's so many follow-up questions I want to ask about that, but I'll try to. One question I want to find out is, how about with your kids growing up with these trips? How do you think that's benefited them, and how would might it have been otherwise if you hadn't been doing this all these years?
Yeah, I think we talked about this just earlier today, that when the kids go on these trips, including our own, they what they recognize pretty quickly is that these kids that are running around with no shoes on their feet, no toys, no games, by any stretch, no electronics, laptops, TVs, none of that, that they are happy. They are still happy, and they're
Hmm.
kids having fun with whatever it is that they have. They make a soccer ball out of tape and rubber bands and whatever they have around. One of the builders in our group on our first trip took a nail and put it through a plastic bottle cap and made a top out of it. And that entertained the entire neighborhood for hours. So
Oh wow.
our kids realize that stuff doesn't make us happy. And that is an extremely important lesson for all of us in the Western world, because we have the pull of advertising and media telling us you have to have stuff to be happy, and you have to buy more of our stuff in order to keep up and to be happy. And so that was a lesson that I think they all got, myself as well. And every time we go down there, it's just another reminder, once again, that this is stuff that makes us happy, and we are spoiled, and we take for granted what we have in the U.S., and that we are privileged just because we were born here in the United States. We are privileged, and that could have changed because we're the one percenters. First of all, 90 to 95% of the rest of the world does not live like those of us in the United States, and those of us that are able to do what we do and successful in real estate and other businesses. We're in the 1%. Club, and we forget that because we're used to it. And so it's
Hmm.
also it is good. It's good to be grounded, obviously, and to be humbled. And sometimes reentry back into the Western world and our culture in the U.S. Is a little rough when we come back into the U.S. and we're in line at Starbucks, and somebody's shouting at the barista over the counter because their latte is wrong or too cold or had too many shots of something in it or whatever, and you just think, really, is it really worth ruining that
Hmm.
person's day because your coffee is exactly the way you want it, when 95% of the rest of the world will never even have enough money to be able to buy a $5 cup of coffee. So that's it's one of those, one of those lessons that we never wanted to hold, put it in our back pocket to hold over our kid's head to say, hey, quit belly aching about the battery, being low and, not having the
Yeah.
latest game. Remember where we were a couple of months ago. But I'll tell you what, there's a couple of times when we have, essentially pulled that out when somebody's throwing a fit about something, say, here, really, bud? Seriously? But even before we have to do that, I mean, they get that. They're just, I think it changes your perspective if you've never gone out and seen a third world country and how people, most of the rest of the world, how they live, yet alone been on the mission field serving alongside of them, even if for a day or a day and a half. It changes your perspective and you come away a changed person, and you come back into your Western world a changed person.
Hmm. That's an interesting word that I caught there, that you talking about serving.
Mhm.
Is what would be like the next level? I guess is it? You seem like you've already got it. You're there. You've got your mission, and you're able to serve, and you're able to really give back so much. Is there another level for you in terms of your why and your inspiration, or is
Yeah.
it really just doing more of the same? Because you're doing a ton already. It's like very amazing.
Well, that's a good question, Roel, and I think it's more of the same for now. And there's, I mean, there's so many people that we deal with that are mission minded, but then also, there's a whole lot of folks that they don't have any desire to go across the border, let alone to build a house, and that's fine because we'll take their money and we'll go build more houses. Um, there's many people that feel like, oh well, we have people that say, well, I never go on a trip like that, Scott, because I don't know how to measure anything. I don't know how to cut. And so, you know what? Neither do we. Neither do I. That's not what we're looking for. There's also other folks that say, hey, I'm really good. I build houses. I'm a carpenter, and I'd love to come and help on this trip. And it's like, well, we don't need that help. That's not. If you want to come, that's great. You're feeling called to come, then come. But the house will get built. We don't
Yeah.
need experienced carpenters to do this. So all my role in all this is making it open and available, and being the best host that I can, and making this the best experience that I possibly can to facilitate this for as many people as possible, and then let them have their own experience. And for those that are spiritual, they may be talked to by whoever they believe in as their maker, to go out and be inspired to go out and do something different. And so we have we're I'm in that position. I have the luxury of being able to do both. We generate revenue, and therefore we can set that money aside and take people, and we are servant minded, and we can go out, and we've got a program that we can open this up to people. So if I want to get to that place, I'd love to get to the place at some point where the business is running itself, or with my trusted lieutenants, where I can do the opposite, where I can spend we spent about 6 weeks on the mission field building these houses. I'd like to flip that script and have it be the 80-20 rule, where I'm spending 80% of my time on the mission field and 20% of my time running the businesses that generate the revenue that allow us to do this and help people and take others along. And so I guess you could say that's the ultimate goal, and I don't know when that balance shifts or what that looks like, but I think it's coming sooner than I think it is, and who knows? And I don't. They're not my plans. I just I foresee some things happening, but again, we just kind of follow along the path, because every time I think that I've got a plan, that is very quickly changed, and we don't set a whole lot of long-term goals and plans these days, because it seems like we're always guided into a different asset class or a different direction. And so I don't really know, other than at some point I think I'm gonna be spending more time there than I am here.
Wow, that's very, very cool. Well, I'm sure on this topic, I could probably distract you for quite a long time, but I know
Yeah,
you're quite
I didn't
busy.
expect to have this call this afternoon, but I cleared it out because I think we had some unfinished business from this morning. So I appreciate that.
All right. Well, this conversation has truly been an inspiration, and it's been an honor to be able to finally actually kind of just connect with you on that. That's very cool. So thanks again, Scott, for taking the time out to share those thoughts with me.
Yeah, always. One of my favorite topics, so I'll be glad to share anytime.
All right. Take care then.
All right. Thanks, Roel. You too. Bye now.
Bye. Thanks again for joining us here at Self Storage Investing. We really, really appreciate it. For more great content like this, make sure to click the subscribe button below this video. And be sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and BiggerPockets. You can also visit us at our main website at selfstorageinvesting.com, where you'll find even more free content, our ebook, and registration to our free webinars and education courses, and much, much more. Once again, for more great content like this, please click the subscribe button below. Thank you.